I'm a diva. I have to have the mic just right. Hi, everyone. Michelle Grimolia here. Today is Wednesday, November 18th. Thanks, Adele. And we have our management Q&A today. So I have my whole management team is here. And we came into the morning with the best laid plans of what we were going to be talking about today. And was, as with everything COVID, that has changed. So we have some pretty significant announcements today. So please bear with us as we go through these items. I will just reiterate that everything we discussed today, or the bulk of it, particularly the changes, will be memorialized in a memo, which I have a draft of in my hand. That will go out to all residents today. And this broadcast will be available on our YouTube channel sometime after 4 o'clock today. Before I move on, I want to just reiterate that if you have any issues, questions, comments, concerns, complaints, grievances, that you know how to get in touch with me. That is what I am here for. I make myself available to you basically around the clock, except for sleeping hours, because I want to be helpful. So please do not hesitate to reach out to me. This is a very, very hard time for everyone. We are all dealing with a million snowballs, tennis balls, bombshells going off all the time, and we have to come together, and I am here for you for that, as is the rest of my executive team. So I'm just going to actually recite to you the draft memo that I have in hand right now, because it sort of covers everything that I need to accomplish during my segment of this management Q&A today. This is a draft, and it will be tweaked slightly after the meeting, but I will just recite this because I think it just about covers what I'm hoping to accomplish. Dear all, I want to apologize in advance for this memo. I personally, and all of us, so desperately wish that things would stay the same here for more than a few days at a time. We are working so hard to have that be the case. First, the best news of the day. We have gotten tons of the health center resident COVID tests and staff tests that have been performed since last week when we had the 3 staff positives. And we have no new positives in any of those tests, and no one is symptomatic. That's great news. More test results are pending, as they always are, with us testing someone here every day, but this is a great first step. So here we go with another set of changes. This primarily relates to independent living, but I will highlight similarities and differences for the health center as needed. And side note, Philip is going to actually follow me and talk specifically about what I'm going to be talking about for independent living. He'll be providing similar or slightly different guidance for the health center, so please stay tuned for that. Everything in this memo reflects the following facts. First, cases of COVID are on the rise in our region of New York, in all of New York and the country. Second, infectious disease doctors and specialists are loudly and uniformly recommending that people stay home for Thanksgiving. And last, the unavoidable fact that here on campus, in the last 4 weeks, that we have had 3 health center staff take ill and be tested positive for COVID. That was the week of October 20th. Then we had 12 health center residents test positive for COVID, one of which is still testing positive for COVID. All of those residents remain asymptomatic. And then last week, we had 3 more positive staff member cases, 1 new in independent living, 1 new in the health center, and 1 renewed in the health center from the tests the week of October 20th. So those are the facts that we're dealing with. All of these facts tell us that the absolute utmost of caution is required. We are facing likely the hardest 6 to 8 weeks yet with fighting this pandemic. We have the responsibility to one another to lean in to this despite how very hard this is. Accordingly, it has been decided that the following changes will take effect immediately. We have decided not to open the dining room as planned this week. The dining room will open for Thanksgiving as planned. All other planned activities this week will proceed as planned. Again, the only change for this week, so from today until Thanksgiving, the only difference from earlier week's memo is that we will not be opening the dining room as planned. For Thanksgiving, activity will proceed as planned. We have and are doing a final review of the plans of each of you so that we can ensure that you are made of the requirements related to your own plans. That applies to both the health center residents and independent living residents. By the end of the day today or tomorrow, we should have a comprehensive list of what everyone's plans are. And before I move on, if anything that you hear in the rest of this address today requires or causes you to change your Thanksgiving plans, please notify someone, either if you're in the health center, please notify a nursing staff member, a social worker case manager, unit manager, or reception of your change in plans, and same thing in independent living. If any of this causes your plans to change, please let myself, Ronnie, Mary Jo, or concierge know by Friday morning, if not sooner. The sooner the better, really. Starting November 27th, which is the Friday after Thanksgiving, and this is the news, this is the new stuff. Independent living will be placed on a cautionary pause for 2 weeks. That's the entire independent living. And what this means is that all independent living residents will need to quarantine until Friday, December 11th. That's 14 days. All group activity will be canceled, including meetings and card games. The bank, pub, mailroom, and dining room will be closed during that 2-week period. Dedrick's will be delivery only. Our staff, and thank you so much to Ronnie's dietary staff because they are just delivery extraordinaire, the new FedEx, and the people that take the brunt of so many of these changes. Our staff will deliver meals, packages, and newspapers. The hair salon will be closed for the first week and possibly open the second week, depending on Sharon's COVID test results. And that's because we will know Sharon's COVID status because she is tested weekly here as if she were our own employee. So the hair salon may open that second week. Medically necessary appointments may proceed, but we must be made aware of your plans. You may call concierge or Mary Jo. All visits on campus, resident to resident, and visits by outsiders will be paused for that 2-week period. You may, during that 2-week period, walk outside alone, masked, and exiting through and entering through the closest door to your home. You may walk in your own residential hallway, masked, alone, and avoiding common areas. You will be able to use the fitness center, and you will be able to be featured on channel 1340 from the PAC if you are alone. Gretchen will coordinate that with you. Approved companions will continue to be welcomed on campus during that 14-day period. So just to recap that before I move on to the next, essentially the 14 days after Thanksgiving will look a lot like what the campus looked like in May and June. So we will be offering limited individual activity, and our staff will be doing all of the deliveries of mail, meals, packages, etc. Most of the ancillary services will be closed down, but you will see the details in the memo. Next, and this is a related topic, anyone leaving campus for a visit to a loved one or having a loved one visit in their home at any time, or new residents moving in, will now, until further notice, this is not just the 14 days, this is for until further notice, will be required to quarantine for 14 days and then have a COVID test. We can no longer apply the 72-hour requirement given the facts that we discussed at the outset. This is based on guidance received from the New York State Department of Health epidemiologists that we are working with on the state level. This is consistent between independent living and the health center. We cannot abbreviate the 14-day requirement under any circumstance. On the 14th day, you will be required to have a COVID test and then, with a negative result, be released from quarantine. This also applies to any independent living resident having a trip to the hospital or emergency room for any reason, and in the health center, a trip off campus for any reason. And Philip will cover that in greater detail in a moment. I want to just reiterate something that I included in my memo from Monday as you decide about your holiday plans and upcoming travel plans. I think it's critical for all of our staff and residents to very carefully consider your plans and decisions in the upcoming days and weeks, especially as relates to Thanksgiving. Health professionals from well-respected agencies are strongly advising people to avoid gatherings for Thanksgiving. We cannot prohibit the behavior of any resident any more than we can prevent our staff from abiding by the same recommendations. But we can, and we do, encourage you to skip in-home Thanksgiving gatherings or visits to loved ones if you have any misgivings at all. We are here and we welcome you to the dining room with open arms for Thanksgiving, or we will bring a delicious meal to your doorstep. We are here for you, we are here for each other, and this is something we will get through. With that, I will hand this over now to Philip to talk about how this sort of relates to or is different from the health center. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Philip Mail. I'm the Director of Long-Term Care for the Health Center. Just leapfrogging off what Michelle said, some of the differences are that the Department of Health actually mandates the measures that we take in the health center. And these include much of which has already been the case. We continue to have no communal dining. We continue to have no group activities. And at this point in time, we continue to have no visitation, and that's triggered by any instances of a positive case, whether it's a staff member or a resident. So even though we've had start and stops of having visitation, those have ended because of a positive case anywhere within the health center. So what does that mean for residents in the health center? We are doing our best to make lemonade out of lemons. There is quite a bit of individualized efforts to engage people in their rooms with activities, with keeping people in contact with their loved ones via virtual visits. We've all become very tech savvy, and some of the residents have become very tech savvy, so that continues. All meals are delivered to the rooms. We are allowing at this point in time some limited walking in the halls. We have had, when the weather was a little warmer last week, some strategic ventures outside by a small group of residents that we could keep supervised and socially distanced, as well as use of the garden. We are trying to humanely operate that in the ways that the regulations allow us, and that is safe. So any resident, for basically any reason that leaves the health center. So that could be for a doctor's appointment. That could be for a trip to the emergency room. That could be for hospitalization. Any reason that person, or simply going out. We've had some residents who are aware of the consequences and have opted to go visit a loved one outside of the health center. Any resident who leaves the building for whatever reason whatsoever is required to then have a mandatory 14-day quarantine in their room without even some of the very small freedoms that I had mentioned previously about walks in the hall and going out. Testing for those residents that do go out will occur on day 14. That is more stringent than in the past when they allowed a test earlier than the end of the 14 days. So testing for the residents will be on day 14, and then we await the results of those tests. We do have the technology and the means right now to do some rapid testing, which gives us a result in 20 to 30 minutes. We use that judiciously and only in emergency cases because it is slightly less predictive than the swab tests that we've been using. There are various intervals, I won't go into the formulary for that, on which we must test all residents in the health center, regardless of whether in skilled or in assisted living. In addition to the weekly staff testing for most health center staff, as well as some staff who've been identified at high risk for exposure may get tested twice a week. These results flow into a small group of us 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. We are on constant alert for a positive result, whether from a resident or a staff member, which then triggers a domino effect of precautions and moves and notifications to other staff, to residents, and to the Department of Health, depending on results. So we just have numerous graphs and tracking sheets going at all times. We have only one resident in our COVID-specific unit right now, down from the 12 that Michelle mentioned before. And there are rules and guidances on how that person may at some point come off that unit. I think that pretty much covers. Michelle's mentioning there's often questions whether or not family members can send residents in the health centers care packages of food or gifts around this time. The answer is absolutely. If folks bring them by, they are to leave it in the lobby of the health center. Our reception staff and security staff know what to do from there. And food may be brought in. It may not be shared with other residents. If you know your loved one has a good friend or something, there will be no opportunity to be able to share that food. I know around this time, very well-intentioned family members like to buy food for the hardworking clinical staff in the health center. Unfortunately, that's not permitted right now. There's no circumstances in which that food can be received and then dispersed to staff. They're not allowed to eat on the unit. They're not allowed to eat in communal fashion or from the same food source. So sadly, that's not the case. However, any kind of well wishes, cards, nice emails and such, I dutifully distribute. They are deeply appreciated by staff. That is the circumstances in the health center right now. We are in literally daily contact with the Department of Health for changes in guidance, for changes in any kind of best practice or changes in regulation. We frequently have the Department of Health in our building, and they are looking for opportunities to make sure that our infection control practices are up to standard. The Department of Health has also resumed regular certification surveys, so the surveys that we're all used to, that has resumed also. So there's lots of regulation going on. I would just add, I know it's, from a personal note, I know it's very tempting to be sentimental and even angry at this time of the holidays of, can't we just risk it, or won't it be okay? And unfortunately, COVID doesn't recognize holidays and doesn't recognize what day on the calendar it is. My husband and I lost a family friend this morning to COVID, and he died on a ventilator. So it is very serious. There's lots of encouraging news coming. We have 2 vaccines. In reading as the administrator, I get a lot of information that perhaps isn't general knowledge, but there's some talk of even getting the FDA to sign on to these to one of the 2 new vaccines literally within days, and then it just becomes a distribution issue, which is no small feat. But there's lots of reasons to be hopeful and every reason to remain diligent. If anyone has questions specific to the health center, you know where to reach me, and I'm happy to answer them.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Hull, the Resident Services Director, and I just wanted to share some thoughts with you. I've been thinking about all of you and how you're doing, and I've been thinking a lot about the director's team here and about our employees. So I just, was thinking about this past year, and just that it's been a very extremely challenging year, and unfortunately, we will have a little ways to go, and coping with all things COVID will continue to be challenging. And I think one of the many difficult aspects of this is the unpredictable changes to our daily routines, dining, activities, seeing loved ones, going out, meeting in groups, etc. The back and forth of what's safe one day and then not safe the next day is increasingly hard for all of us to roll with. It is hard to keep up with the ongoing changes and keep all the very detailed information straight. I always marvel at Michelle's ability to stand up here and give all of the details that she does and keep it all straight. Also, watching the news, while lately we've had some encouraging news, other news can cause anxiety. We worry about our friends, we worry about our neighbors, and that can be difficult to continue to deal with. So COVID fatigue is extremely real. It's psychologically, mentally, and emotionally exhausting. You all feel it, all of us in this room feel it, all of the employees feel it. We are all united in our weariness of COVID. Yet in spite of this weariness, we are also a very strong community. And I have no doubt that we will come through this the way Woodland Pond always comes through difficult times, and that is together. We are responsible for our individual safety and for the safety of each other. We need to support one another through this. We need to reach out to one another. We need to call each other. We need to vent together. We need to encourage each other. And we need to keep on going because we will get through this together. Thank you.
I'm a little shorter than everybody else. Hi guys, Ronnie Licata, Dining Director. So yeah, I was a little disappointed when we heard we were going to close down. I know last time I stood up here, I was encouraging you all to come to the dining room. But what I can say is that Thanksgiving is not that far away, and we are going to do everything in our power to make it, if not the best meal this year, then close to it. It's been a long week or two for our staff, and I want to thank everybody for getting back to us, letting us know what your plans are. We are keeping close track of all that. And as Michelle had mentioned, if anything changes based on today's guidance or expectations for the next couple of weeks, please call 5710. Michelle has enough on her plate. Keep it in dining and let us know what's going on, and we'll track it for you. Okay. So from a dining perspective on Thanksgiving, the 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock seatings are completely full. 12 o'clock is about halfway full, and the 6 o'clock is about 3/4 full. So you're going to see between 20 to 40 people in the dining room. It should be an exciting day. So we look forward to that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is another piece of news that we worked on today is our health center. I would have to say about a month or two ago, we moved our 2 kitchens in the health center into one location to allow for visitation for health center families and residents. We were able to discuss a new location for that. So what's going to be happening in my team in this week prior to Thanksgiving is that I'm going to be breaking down those 2 kitchens and the 1 kitchen into 2 again, to just kind of go back to where we were. So I just want to let you all know what's going on in my department. And that's it. I look forward to Thanksgiving. And as Michelle said, it's 6 to 8 weeks. We just have to look forward to that. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bridget Blum, Director of Human Resources. I want to start by thanking you all tremendously for those who contribute to the Resident Appreciation Fund. This fund, which has a committee, the Resident Appreciation Committee, led by Ray Smith, works very tirelessly throughout the year to encourage residents to donate money for the hourly employees, which is dispersed about this time of year, historically each year, which is, it's wonderful that the residents have been able to give such a generous gift. The total for this year, I know that Ray has the information, and I believe that he shared it at least with the committee and perhaps even among all of the residents at large, but I can report today that we had 219 active employees who are hourly staff members who were recipients of this gift. Their total combined hours worked for the year was just over 222,000 hours. The fund raised a total of just over $165,000, which is just, again, tremendous and remarkable. That money divided out among those employees by their total hours worked resulted in about 74 cents per hour being paid to those employees. So I can tell you that the highest earner of this gift was a CNA. This CNA worked just over 2,500 hours for the year, and that's about an average of 48 hours per week. To put it into perspective, our standard work week is 37 and a half hours. So this person on average worked almost or just over 10 hours more per week. Their check total that they will be surprised with tomorrow is $1,853.71. That is money directly from you residents to the employees. The only hand that we have in this is really the distribution of the total hours worked. So thank you so much. I know that the employees are going to be so happy when they receive their checks tomorrow. They're actually going to be getting them a week earlier than we anticipated because our bank is just that efficient and got them done for us. So it's really going to be a nice, pleasant surprise. Usually, you know, in years past, we've tried to pair it with the check just before Thanksgiving. They will have a payday next Wednesday, but they're getting this check starting tomorrow. So it's really going to be quite a surprise. So that's a report on behalf of the Appreciation Committee and the fund and all of you residents, and from all of the leadership here, we are more thankful than you can ever imagine. The other thing that I wanted to talk about today is just like with all things COVID, the anticipated changes that we are going to be having for our holiday party. And the reason I wanted to talk with you about that is because I know that many of you are interested in what our plans are each year. You marvel at our, party goings-ons. You walk by, you see all of the raffle prizes that we typically have and the candy bar and the competitions that we've had the last couple of years. That isn't going to be seen this year. And we understand the importance of celebrating and really wanted to be able to have that celebration together. But we know that the precautions and the, COVID guidelines are just not going to allow for that this year. So we went to our Employee Voice Committee, which is a committee made up of employees from all different departments throughout our community. And we posed the question as to how we can modify the party and the gathering this year based on COVID and the restrictions that are in place. So with the recommendations from the Employee Voice Committee and with leadership together, we have come up with a plan. I'm just going to very briefly share it with you because I know that many of you are interested in that. Because we can't gather together and share our meal as we normally would, we are going to be providing to all staff in ways that we always do, a wonderfully prepared meal, individually prepared, boxed, and delivered to the staff members who are working on Thanksgiving and who are working on Christmas Day. So everybody working will, benefit from a delicious meal. In addition, we are going to be raffling off the prizes that we would normally raffle. Of course, it's not going to be as varied as in years past, because a lot of that we get as donations from our vendors, our business vendors. So, we will be, though, making efforts to purchase gift cards and raffle prizes for the staff. And all staff are going to be entered into those raffles. Normally we do it by ticket, by who attends. People can make a donation to purchase additional tickets, but not any of that is going to be able to happen this year. So all staff members will be registered or entered to win each of the raffle prizes, and the drawings will happen and those prizes will be distributed. So, we are still taking good care of the staff. We know that this is an event that they look forward to. We look forward to it. In addition to the raffle prizes, the meal, each staff member is also going to get a small care package. We're, finalizing the details of what's going to be contained, but we're thinking, some sort of a trinket item that will last, that they'll be able to have for quite some time. In the past, we've done t-shirts. This year, we're toying with the idea of a mask. Surprise. So that, perhaps some candy of some sort. We're thinking, a small gift card to a coffee shop, so a small monetary amount will go into the care package. And this will be something that will go to every single one of our staff members, hourly, salaried, not just the folks that are actually working on the day of the holiday. So those are our plans for the holidays. We think that staff will still be very appreciative. We're doing the best that we can and what we can do with the restrictions. So that's it for today. Thanks so much.
Hi, Tom Tango, Director of Plant Operations Security. Couple things. The pool, like a lot of you know, we did a beautiful job painting the pool a few months ago, and there was some pieces coming apart on the bottom. Sherwin-Williams paint company stood by their product. They came by, they provided us new paint. The contractor stood by his work. He came by and redid it as per specs by Sherwin-Williams. That was done a week ago. I want to let it sit another week. And I talked to the water company today. Next week, either Tuesday or Friday, we'll fill the pool back up. And then a few days from that, it'll be operational again. And I expect it to be just as well as it was. Concrete, we did some concrete repairs. Those are complete. Forms need to come off, but the work is done. And we took care of some pretty serious trip hazards. Snow season's coming up. Pretty soon, the contractor, he moved some equipment on the property. The rest of it will be coming on the next week or two. Again, the last couple of years, we've done really well with pre-snow parking. You guys have been great, and we're going to ask for that cooperation again. Prior to any snow event, we will post the pre-snow parking plan, where I'd like it if everybody parked in certain spaces, that let the plow company operate and clear the property in the best way they can to provide the most spaces often. We'll post those signs, prior to snow. We'll post them on 1340. We'll post them at the entrances. And again, I appreciate your cooperation with that. And I'm sure, like every year, the first storm will be, it'll be a learning experience, but we'll get through it. Last thing I'm going to say is I still have office hours every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. I really have nobody coming down. A lot of people stop me in the hall, they ask me questions. A lot of times I say, I don't know. And I don't know because I don't have access right in the hall to some of the paperwork I would need to provide some answers, or I don't have access to the people I would need to provide some of those answers. So I would encourage anybody to come down at 1 o'clock, call concierge, make an appointment, and we can answer a lot of questions right then and there. Again, that's all I really have, and I look forward to doing this again with everybody in the room, asking questions, and that way I can give you a lot better feedback to the questions you have. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Robert Dunn, Director of Environmental Services. First of all, I want to thank you all for your patience. I know not having the housekeeping the last few weeks has been, difficult kind of for all of us. as we go through these difficult times. And with the new guidance that's coming, our goal is to get that, restarted if everything goes well on December 14th, which would be a Monday. If you have any pressing issues ahead of that time, please reach out and call me directly at 5512, or you can call Carrie Burns as well at 5523, and we can discuss those options or issues that you're having at that time. But again, I thank you for your patience. The staff has been working really hard in the health center, to take care of these issues that we've had coming up in the last few weeks. And everybody in every department has worked, as a great team. It's nice to see, kind of when the chips are down, how everyone works really well together. So I applaud all departments and all staff for pulling together through these times. Also, I think when it comes to the Sustainability Committee, I want to thank all of you for your great help. It's one of the best committees ever. Just wanted to point that out. So the signs are all up in the garbage rooms, all of your input, all of your feedback, all of your time and patience on that. I really can't applaud you guys enough on that committee. So thank you for, helping us move along, and hopefully that will, make things better here. And that was really our goal, is to make things better. That's all I really have for now, but reach out to me if you have any questions regarding the housekeeping services. Okay, thank you.
So this is Michelle. I just wanted to mention for the record that there is a little bit of disagreement about which committee is actually the best. In my opinion, all the committees are the best. Before I say goodbye today, I just want to mention one other thing, because this did come up quite a bit over the last several days. You all are aware that we had identified that due to the positive staff members in the health center last week, we identified a moderate level of risk to independent living because, in this case, of cohabitation of staff members in different parts of the community. I wanted to first and foremost let you know that the staff members that we were concerned about potentially having some cross-transmission due to exposure, all of their test results have come back since this weekend, and all are negative. So I feel reassured that we did the right thing by temporarily pausing for a few days based on the moderate level of risk that was here. But I also feel, happy that the test came back negative for those folks. So to that end, a lot of you asked me, how does Woodland Pond ensure that there's no crossover of staff? And we do that absolutely as much as we can. So we're very dedicated to not having staff crossover between, say, independent living in the health center, but even within the health center. If we can avoid skilled nursing staff crossing over into assisted living or with Garden View, that's our goal. There are times that cannot happen, though. And so this morning, my leadership team and I, affectionately referred to in this case as the Code Delta team, met for an hour, and we went through not only the folks that cross over potentially between the areas of the community, but we also had spent, since the weekend, identifying every situation on campus where we've got staff that are either related. We have a number of relations of folks that spend a good amount of time together as being relatives. We've got a number of folks that are either married or otherwise in a relationship or are roommates together. That's kind of the Woodland Pond way. You do know that we refer to this as a family. And when we went through the numbers today, it was pretty astounding. I think we probably had 24 cases of at least 24 individual circumstances of duos or trios where we identified that kind of an off-campus relationship. So certainly we can't and don't want to, alienate anyone. We want the more people on campus, the better, especially those that are part of our family. So today we identified, of all of those 24 or more duos and trios, we now know and will be tracking actively the assignments of each of those cohabitants or off-campus relationships, family relationships, et cetera, so that wherever we have an opportunity to keep the 2 people or the 3 people in that combination in the same assigned area, we will intend to do so. So this is a next level to us not having people cross over if we can avoid it. But this even means that one person may not be crossing over. We want to try to have their spouse or their significant other or their roommate or their cousin or their daughter work in the same area where they are. It will be unavoidable in certain cases because there are some very small departments that you can't individually assign someone. Each of those staff have been further assessed in order to determine their level of risk of transmission. So for example, I'm someone that sometimes has to cross over, but because I do not provide typically hands-on care to residents, and I'm typically not in closed quarters with other staff members with the exception of 1 or 2 in a meeting, although I do cross over and that's unavoidable, my level of risk transmission is considered to be relatively lower, for example, than someone in a nursing role or a dietary aide, for example. So all of those people, again, were categorized into ensuring whether they're both or all 3 assigned to the same area. And where that cannot be, we've identified a high, medium, or low risk, and we will be tracking that very carefully. And as we assign future employees, this will surpass COVID, because this will not be the first outbreak of something that we have at Woodland Pond. We in the past have had a flu outbreak, although small. We've had GI outbreaks. By taking this action and making this part of our safety net of protocols, this will help us ensure that the knots of protection and prevention are as tight as possible. So we are so committed to continually improving our infection control procedures and protecting you all. I just wanted to close the loop on that. I don't have anything else to add for today. Anybody else? Everybody else is good for now. Again, a memo will come out as soon as I can get it typed up for the changes for post-Thanksgiving and post-travel off campus. And then this entire thing will be available on our YouTube channel sometime in the next hour. Thanks, everyone, and happy Thanksgiving.